Cybersecurity policies and structures of our government. Already we have heard a push and pull going on behind the scenes and increasingly in public about some of the thorniest questions that that panel will consider. Today we will offer some advice. This committee will have the jurisdiction to implement the policies that are recommended by the President, and notwithstanding the activities in some other committees, which we welcome, the jurisdiction for these matters will be here in the Telecommunications Subcommittee and in the Energy and Commerce Committee. We will hear from a brilliant set of witnesses, but we will not hear from someone from the administration, for some reasons obvious and some reasons not so. The obvious reason is I don't think they know yet what their policies will be, so asking them to testify on them might be premature, but also we wanted by design to have a conversation here among interested parties in the community that would allow us to inform our reactions to the administration's proposals that will be forthcoming. In fact, cybersecurity is not a singular problem. It is at least three. There are, of course, the issues of personal security, issues of spam and nuisance, but also identity theft and the like. This is also an issue of critical infrastructure and protecting it, the economic security of our country, and frankly, the increasingly interconnected economies of all of the countries of the world. And of course, this is a national security issue, an issue that has been seemingly increasingly brought to the public's attention with stories that fill up the newspapers on everything from fighter jet plans being stolen to Chinese-based spying on Tibet and so many other countries. We have heard just about a story a day. We will endeavor to ask and answer some of the big questions that the President is going to be wrestling with. How do we respond to or mitigate or work around or generally respond to the inherent paradox that is the Internet? It's openness. It's openness to innovation. It's openness to democratization. But also it's openness to mischief and mischief makers, and often things worse than mischief. For the most part, Congress has been wise in resisting the temptation for heavy-handed intervention, and that has served the Internet well and has served our country well. We also have to ask the question that has been dominating the discussions at the White House: who should be in charge of combating the mischief maker, the con artists, or the terrorists? Not only what agency of government, but whether or not it should be government at all, and if so, what relationship between government and the private sector. With government, of course, you often get the inevitable heavy-handedness and secrecy, but you do get strong centralized action when it's needed. With the private sector, you get entrepreneurship, creativity, but you do also get silos of self-interest that don't always make for a vigorous system-wide defense. One thing is sure: this cancer can't be exercised with a rusty axe. We need to use a scalpel. Third, we have to ask the questions: are we destined to constantly fight the last war when it comes to cybersecurity? Is the cycle of discovery, warning, insulation inevitable? Conficker gave us an interesting and good example of this. Tiffany of my staff put together for a timeline of the Conficker virus, and here's what she wrote. On December 29, 2008, Conficker B is first detected. Conficker A updates itself to Conficker B. February 20, 2009, Conficker C is discovered. Conficker B updates itself to Conficker C. March 4th, Conficker D is discovered. Conficker C updates itself to Conficker D. April 7, 2009, Conficker E is discovered. Conficker D updates itself to Conficker E. Conficker E downloads scareware and spyware onto computers. It deletes automatic updates of security systems and prompts a fake need to update one's computer. And when individuals buy the software protection Conficker E offers, the computer downloads spyware onto the computer. This is a dynamic that clearly does not lend itself very well to discovering the problem, addressing the problem, moving on to the next problem. Maybe cat and mouse is our only option. Maybe, though, we don't need a military type approach, but more approach that we in government use at, say, NIH or the Food and Drug Administration, where government helps to augment creative solutions, help with some of the R&D, and then let the private sector go off and implement them. And then, of course, there are the more provocative questions that we might not have time to touch on today, such as John Markoff in the New York Times asking the question, do we need a new Internet altogether? Or the provocative title of Jonathan Zittrain's great book, The Future of the Internet and How We Stop It. The witnesses we have before us will offer us an opportunity to answer some, but not all of these questions. This is a conversation that inevitably has to take place not only here in Congress, but in the businesses around the Internet, in the coffee shops and parlors of people's personal experiences, and of course, over at the White House. Now it's my honor to introduce the witnesses we have before us today.